Hello everyone, welcome back to Card Compendium. Today we're flipping a bit more forward in the book than our last topic, moving to February of 2015. Today's deck is Nekroz. If you so much as spoke the word Nekroz in 2015, anyone in a 5-mile radius would immediately run for the hills with their tails between their legs. This shit was format warping when it came out, seeing as almost all of the deck came out in one handy dandy set, the Secret Forces. The Secret Forces was a deck builder set which contained 3 decks, but Nekroz was the best of these by a country mile, and they were so good in fact they had to hit not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 6. 6 of their cards were limited and or banned because of how abusable and powerful this deck was. 2 of the affected cards are still banned to this day. Well, so without further ado, let's take a look at a deck list and get into the good stuff. The deck list you see before you is my personal deck list for Nekroz at the moment, and to be honest, this works well for me. I don't know if it's competitive or whatever, but I have a lot of fun piloting this and have done for around a year or so. But enough of me, let's go into their release set, that being the Secret Forces. The Secret Forces brought practically all of the Nekroz cards with it, that now being a deck builder set, works. So let's go over the support from here. Their first monster was Shurit, Strategist of the Nekroz. He's a level 3 water warrior monster with the following effects. If you ritual summon exactly one Nekroz ritual monster with a card effect that requires use of monsters, this card can be used as the entire requirement. If this card is tributed by a card effect, you can add one warrior Nekroz ritual monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect as Shurit, Strategist of the Nekroz, once per turn. This shonen protagonist is absolutely as powerful as it seems. You can use it for any of your ritual monsters, and the effect of using it as the entire material also counts if you're banishing from the graveyard, which yes, can be done with one of their ritual spells I'll get onto later. The tribute effect also kicks in when you use him, which is equally as good, seeing as it gives you even more material to keep summoning rituals. This card ended up being banned because of how good he is, and stayed banned for a few years. After that, remained a one long time, but is now back at 3 after 5 years. Weird fun fact, this guy is actually the son of Gishgimi Amelia and other Nekroz cards we'll get onto later. Don't know why, just part of the lore. Moving on to 2 other effect monsters I'm going to brush over quickly, just seeing that they were useful at the time of release, but aren't really cutting it nowadays. Dance Princess of the Nekroz is a level 4 water spellcaster which prevents your opponent from responding to your Nekroz ritual spells and protects your monsters from targeting. It also lets you add a banished Nekroz to hand when it's tributed, which rarely comes up. Oh yeah, it's also level 4, which matters. The other effect monster is Great Sorcerer of the Nekroz. Yeah, I don't know how this was Shurit's dad, he's a bit old, but we'll roll with it. He's a level 4 spellcaster. Yeah, all the Nekroz are water, so I'm going to stop pointing that out now. Which also has a tribute effect to add a spellcaster Nekroz from the deck to your hand. It also sends a Nekroz from deck to grave when banished, which again rarely comes up. The tribute effect is good, but there's only really one target for this that you'd want to search off, which doesn't make it that worth it. Off of those, we have their ritual monsters lineup. Let's go up in levels. So the level 3 is Nekroz of Cow Jesus. His effects read: you can ritual summon this card with any Nekroz ritual spell. Must be ritual summoned. You can only use each of these effects of Nekroz of Cow Jesus once per turn. You can discard this card, add one Nekroz spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Quick effect. You can target one face-up monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck. Until the end of this turn, that target's attack becomes 0, also that target's effects are negated. So straight away, there are 2 things here. This sets the example for the rest of their ritual lineup in the sense that all of them have 2 effects, one discard effect and one effect that they have on the field. And that most of them hate on the extra deck, like Ally Justice hates on light monsters, except Nekroz are actually playable, unlike Ally of Dumpster Juice. You should probably treat yourself to at least 2 of these, because he comes up a lot to start making your plays. There is something that this card hints to that doesn't actually exist though. See, his effect lets you add a Nekroz spell or trap card, but there's no such thing as a Nekroz trap card. Let's hope we get some in the future. I don't know, they don't really need any, but who knows, an Infinity Barrier couldn't hurt. Their level 4 is Nekroz of Unicorn. His level is just as relevant as his effect. Speaking of, he must be ritual summoned using any Nekroz ritual spell. You can discard it to target any Nekroz card in your graveyard except itself and add it to your hand. This does count for spells. You can only use this effect of Nekroz Unicorn once per turn. His on-field effect lets you negate the effects of face-up monsters on the field that were summoned from the extra deck. This boy is probably one of the best cards the deck ever saw in terms of things to end on, seeing as even now its on-field effect is a mad threat today if left untouched. His discard effect lets you recur any Nekroz card in your graveyard, including the spells. It's not surprising he was one of the cards that ended up limited, and it wasn't that long ago that he was put back to 3. Yeah, this guy's most definitely a 3 of. Skipping over their level 5, because it's kind of bad, we have their level 6, which is miles better in comparison. Here we have Nekroz of Brionac. So you can ritual summon it with any Nekroz ritual spell, must be ritual summoned without using Nekroz of Brionac. You can only use each of these effects of Nekroz of Brionac once per turn. You can discard this card, add one Nekroz monster from your deck to your hand, except itself. You can target up to 2 face-up monsters on the field that will special summon from the extra deck, shuffle them into the deck. Yeah, he's as good as he looks on paper. Seeing as you can search Clauseless and Unicorn, he can basically add anything from your deck or graveyard to your hand by discarding itself. Its on-field effect is good, seeing as it bounces 2, which makes up for the fact it can only target extra deck monsters. It also shares a similar effect to the original Brionac, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Moving to their level 7, we have Nekroz of Gungnir. She's a spellcaster which isn't actually come out in the Secret Forces. She debuted in Secrets of Eternity, which is a set that came out a month before Secret Forces. I don't know why the sets came out this way, but I won't question it. Anyways, this is what she does. You can ritual summon her with any Nekroz ritual spell. It must be ritual summoned without using any level 7 monsters, and you can use each of the effects of Nekroz of Gungnir once per turn. Both of her effects are quick effects. First, her discard effect lets you discard itself and target a Nekroz monster you control to protect it from battle and card effects this turn. Its other effect on field lets you discard one Nekroz card, then target one card on the field, destroy it. This discard effect is more relevant these days because Nekroz have adapted more of a protect the castle kind of strategy. You can't really go wrong with the second effect either, but seeing as spot removal is always welcome. I only played this card at 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if you played 2. Moving on, their level 8 is Nekroz of Valkyrius, after the fabled Valkyrius. He's a level 8 spellcaster with the following effects. You can ritual summon him with any Nekroz ritual spell, must be ritual summoned without using level 8s. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish one Nekroz card from your graveyard and discard this card, negate the attack, then end the battle phase. During your main phase, you contribute up to 2 monsters from your hand and or field, and if you do, draw the same number of cards you tributed. You'd think that his battle protection would be less relevant now, but seeing as it can block any attack and end the battle phase is actually very good. It kind of blocks evenly matched. His on-field effect is also a massive plus, seeing as you can tribute Shurit to draw one and search. Sound like any familiar banned card to you? And a lot of the time, if you aren't playing a certain tech option, you'll have a lot of tribute fodder to cannon off and draw anything to extend your combos. I got this at 2 on my list, and it feels good at that, I'd say. The next boy is a good boy, and he is the level 9 warrior Trishula. You can ritual summon him with any Nekroz ritual spell, must be ritual summoned without using level 9s, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. When a card or effect is activated that targets a Nekroz monster or monsters you control, quick effect, you can discard this card to negate the activation. When this card is ritual summoned, you can banish exactly 3 of your opponent's cards, 1 each from their hand, field, and graveyard. The card in hand is chosen at random. See, this is a tricky one for me. I want to praise it, but at the same time I want to criticize it. The discard effect supports the whole protect the castle idea. It's searchable after Shurit and Brio, and when the on-field effect goes off, it will most likely result in a win on the same turn. But that's just it. The thing has to resolve. See, the normal Trish doesn't care what number of cards you have in the specified locations, and just banishes whatever's there. However, this thing says your opponent has to have at least 1 card in each place in order to activate it in the first place. So if they see you search this thing, they can simply empty their hand, let you pop all of their cards, or get rid of them themselves. Either that, or they let you proceed to win/scoop. Despite all of that being a worse version of the original counterpart, the protection and the slightly worse version of the effect still makes it a solid 2 of, in my opinion. Getting close to the end now, we have the level 10s. Yes, there's 2 of them. The first one was Nekroz of Decisive Armor. He's a dragon based off of Ally of Justice Decisive Armor, and has the following effects. You can ritual summon him with any Nekroz ritual spell, must be ritual summoned without using level 10s, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. You can only use each of the effects of Nekroz of Decisive Armor once per turn. During either player's turn, you can discard this card and target one Nekroz monster you control. It gains 1000 attack and defense until the end of this turn. Its on-field effect allows you to target a set card your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, banish it. His discard effect is good to search when you want to push for game, and his on-field effect is more prominent now, seeing back row heavy decks are a lot more common. Despite that, he isn't often run, seeing his level can be a tad awkward at times, even with Shurit, and his discard effect alone isn't the greatest compared with other options. A lot of builds seems to run him at 1, and to be honest, I think that's fine as is. I decided it to make a way for the new level 10. Nekroz of Aradbear is the other level 10. He was newly released from Ghosts from the Past and was based off of the also new Dragoonity level 10, Arid Bear. Let's see what he does. He has the same ritual summoning conditions as Nekroz of Decisive Armor, and you can only use each of his effects once per turn. You can discard it, tribute up to 2 Nekroz monsters from your hand and or field, and if you do, send that many Nekroz cards from your deck to your graveyard. When a monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can tribute 1 monster from your hand or field, negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. So this guy is miles better than Decisive Armor, but it's still only a 1-off in my opinion, seeing that he's uber searchable, and also doesn't really get summoned too much for the same reason as the other level 10. Although you can end on him going first, as he's a good option, seeing his negate and banish is really strong, and the ability to tribute monsters includes himself, so in the worst case scenario, you can always commit Seppuku to stop your opponent from committing to a board. His discard effect puzzles me, as I don't really think Nekroz need a Foolish Burial of sorts, seeing as they aren't really that sort of deck, or not anymore at least. So I found that a tad odd, but nonetheless, it's still a good effect. The last Nekroz ritual monster I'm going to bother you with is Nekroz of Cow Jesus, Sophia. She's a level 11 with a really good looking discard effect, but a really odd summoning condition, and an effect that would win you the duel on the spot if you resolve. Let's have a read. You can ritual summon this card with any Nekroz ritual spell, must be ritual summoned from your hand by using 3 monsters you control with different types, and cannot be special summoned with other ways. During either player's main phase 1, you can discard this card and 1 Nekroz spell card. Your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck during this phase. When this card is ritual summoned, you can banish all other cards on the field and in the graveyards. You cannot normal summon or set or special summon other monsters during the turn you activate this effect. There's a lot to take in here. Her discard effect is a Scythe Lock, preventing your opponent from doing anything turn 1, preventing their OTK from turn 2. Super powerful, but you need a Nekroz spell in hand to discard 2, which sometimes is a bit steep, especially if you happen to draw it going first. Its summoning condition cannot be met by Shurits, you would have to jump through a few hoops to do it, and its on-summon effect is great and all, but isn't really worth the setup. Run by preference if you want to screw with people. Moving swiftly onto their spell cards, we have 3 ritual spells. Nekroz Kaleidoscope, Mirror, and Cycle. All 3 of them have a graveyard effect that lets you, while you control no monsters, banish them from a graveyard and add another ritual spell from deck to hand. The Nekroz ritual spells all have different ways to summon along with the standard ritual effect. Kaleidoscope lets you send a monster from your extra deck to summon as many ritual monsters as you want that add up to the level of the sent monster. Mirror lets you banish Nekroz monsters in your graveyard as material, and Nekroz Cycle lets you ritual summon a monster that's already in the graveyard. They're all very good options that support numerous different playlines and endboards. The only problem is that the ritual summon effect is hard once per turn. You don't tend to use the same spell twice in a turn anyways, so it doesn't really matter too much, but it can still be annoying on occasions. Kaleidoscope has a lot of utility, seeing as it can send cards like Herald of the Artlight and Elder Entities to summon Nekroz of Unicorn, which will get you a pop or a search depending on which one you send. It's also the one thing that made Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon competitively viable, since people used it as a target for Kaleidoscope. Guess that's a win under the belt of Blue Eyes? Over the year of 2015, Nekroz were hit 3 times on the ban list, ending the year with Preparation of Rites, Nekroz of Brainiac, and Nekroz of Unicorn limited, and Shurit, Jin Releaser of Rituals, and Lavaval Chain banned. Let me explain. Preparation of Rites is a normal spell that lets you add a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and also gets a ritual spell from your grave to your hand if there's one there. It's limited for consistency hits, same reason that Brio and Unicorn. Shurit was banned because they limited it at first and was still too powerful, so they banned it. Lavaval Chain and Jin Releaser of Rituals are another thing together. See, the deck had a combo to make Chain, send Jin Releaser of Rituals to the graveyard off of Lavaval Chain's effect, and then Jin Releaser of Rituals has an effect where if you ritual summon a monster, you can banish Jin from the graveyard as one of the materials. So you would ritual summon Clauseless with Jin, seeing as it's level 3, and now you have the infamous Jin lock. See, Jin the Releaser of Rituals has another effect, which is the monster that's ritual summoned using Jin as material locks the opponent out of special summoning whilst that ritual monster is on the field. Seeing as you had cards like Trish and Gungnir to protect Clauseless from card effects, and then Valk to protect it from battle, the strategy was too toxic to remain in the game, so gone it was by the end of the year. To this day, Chain and Jin are both still banned and likely won't come off for a very long time. Using other generic support, Nekroz became the anti-meta lockout that it is today. The Incantation monsters were very good for the deck's consistency, and I'll explain why. So here we have the 4 Incantations: Talismandra, Candle, Bookstone, and Pencil Plume. All 4 have pretty much the same effect. Talismandra and Pencil Plume's effect require you to reel a ritual monster and themselves in your hand to special summon themselves and another incantation from the deck. Candle and Bookstone have the same effect, except you have to reveal a ritual spell instead. They all have different effects when they're summoned from the deck. Talismandra lets you add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. Candle lets you add a ritual spell from deck. Pencil Plume lets you add a monster from grave. Bookstone lets you add a spell from grave. The Incantations all have their own ritual monster and a spell card too. Incantation Chalice Slime is a level 7 Dark Aqua, which lets you reveal itself in the hand, discard any card, then summon an incantation monster from the deck, but you take 2500 burn if you don't ritual summon after you use its effect. Its on-field effect of spot removal isn't the best, but it works when you need it, so it isn't bad. The original spell, Incantation Inception, lets you ritual summon any monster by using incantations from your hand or field as material. Its graveyard effect lets you replace an incantation on the field with one in your deck, and then add it from your graveyard to hand. It goes without saying that these are pretty damn good in any ritual deck, and Nekroz are no exception. They already had the consistency of unbelievable levels, but this is just downright insane. Over half the deck can search your best playmakers, and for some good combos as well. The downside is that with the 4 incantation you can only use one effect per turn, which means if you use its in-hand effect, you can't use its on-field effect, and vice versa. Even with these restrictions though, I still play 2 of each monster and 1 of the spell, and I like those ratios. Outside of all of this, there are still 2 main pieces of tech that I want to bring up because they're good. The first little package I want to talk about is Cyber Angel Benten and her search target, Vanity's Ruler. Cyber Angel Benten is a level 6 Light Fairy, which has an effect that lets you search another Light Fairy when it's tributed. Yeah, this card was just limited because its effect isn't once per turn, and it can search itself, so yeah, do I need to say any more? Though other decks definitely cared, this Nekroz only ever played 1 if any at all, so yeah. Moving on to Vanity's Ruler, it's a level 8 Light Fairy which cannot be special summoned and prevents your opponent from special summoning while it's on the field. With incantations always leaving themselves on the field, you're never really short of tribute fodder, and it's a searchable lockout card which can win you games on summon if your opponent has no out. You don't have to play this card, but I love to because it's funny more than anything. The last thing I want to talk about is Zaborg the Mega Monarch. Zaborg is a level 8 Light Thunder which when tribute summoned, destroys a monster on the field. If you destroy a light monster, then both players have to send cards from their extra deck to the graveyard up to the monster's level. If you tribute summon Zaborg with a light monster, you choose what your opponent sends. All of that, just to say this. Summon Zaborg, kill itself. Wipe your opponent's board and field, and go +5. How'd you do all of that then? Send 3 copies of Elder Entity Entis to wipe their board. Send 3 copies of Herald of Arclight to +3 from searching, and 2 totally awesomes to add 2 waters from grave to hand, resulting in your +5. Yeah, this card is too good not to run in my opinion. Granted, it will almost never resolve because your opponent will negate it most of the time, but most of its targets are played anyways for Kaleidoscope, and it's not like the Nekroz extra deck is particularly tight or anything, so yeah, he's a good boy. But I used to run 3, but I cut it to 2. Because I wanted to have my deck list of 40 cards, because, yeah, I'm one of those people. So after all this, I just want to say that above all this deck is funny. It's consistent, it's cheap, because most of its cards have been reprinted in lower rarities, and the rest were never really expensive to begin with. It's a really strong anti-meta option at the moment, and also a good beginner deck in my opinion, or a good starting point for someone coming back to the game after a few years, because it doesn't involve a lot of complicated mechanics. And with that, we can close the compendium for today. Hey everyone, just thanks for listening and thanks for watching again. I hope you enjoyed this solo video, and I'm definitely doing more in this series, so please keep posted for another one. If there's any deck you want me to do specifically, please comment down below and I'll look into it. If there's any other requests, you can always ask me in other places like my Twitch, like my Twitter, and yeah, my Discord server. I'll leave those all in the link in the description. But yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye!